In this video, we'll use Excel to find the correlation coefficient R. And this is the formula for the correlation coefficient. So let's take a look at a couple of pieces of data to see if there's any association using the correlation coefficient. We have the sodium for a group of cereal and the consumer reports ratings. And we'll call the sodium X and the consumer reports ratings as Y. Alright, first thing we need is to find some basic statistics. We need the mean and standard deviation for each of those values. So to find the mean, we need to look for the average, and the average value is the mean in Excel and in Google Docs. So we're going to collect the mean for all these values, for all the X values. And then we also want the standard deviation of all these values. So I'm clicking and I'm going to scroll down to the last element and I'll say shift. I'll click on shift. While holding the shift down, I'll click on the last element, and that's going to highlight everything in there. So I got my mean and standard deviation for my X values. Now let's find the mean and standard deviation for my Y values. Again, a click and a shift click to cover everything, and then a standard deviation starting with the first value. This is the first value. Scroll down, shift click to the last value. Let's try that again. Seems to have lost something here. Let's try that again. Standard deviation. Click on this. Scroll to the last value. There you go. Now, I want to count n. In the example that we did in class, n was 5 or something really simple. So if you want to count a long list, you can look at the starting and ending points and subtract, or you can just say count. We can count how many cells we're capturing there. In this case, it looks like there's 77 cereals. Okay, so now that we've found some basic statistics, we need x minus x bar, and we will make that a list and we'll place it right here. So this will equal to x value minus the x bar values here. Now if I click on that and then press enter and I scroll down, what's going to happen is that it's going to look for my second number that I'm subtracting and scroll down here, which isn't going to work for us. And so the trick is that if we want to fix something, we put dollar signs in front of the D and in front of the 4. So we put a dollar sign in front of the row and column that it's trying to access, and then it'll stay there. So we have a negative 29, and then I just click and drag to get the rest of those values. It's kind of hard to see this, so what we'll do is I'll make this a little bit bigger. You can also fix the decimal places here to 2 or 3 decimal places, so it'll be easier to see. But I won't worry about that. Alright, now the next step is to take your x minus x bar value, so I'll say equals. I'll click on the x minus x bar value, and then I want to divide the standard deviation. So the standard deviation is in this cell. I click on that. I see D5, but again, I don't want to move that. I want to fix that. So whenever we fix anything, I'll put a dollar sign here. Okay. And so I'll gather it all up. And here are my values. Okay. Now I want to add that up, but before I add that up, I need to figure out the y's and then multiply them together and then add it up. Okay, so I'm going to move this formula over here so we can work with the y bars now, or with the y's. So y minus y bar, I'll click on this space, I'll say equals, this is the y value, minus the y bar value is here, dollar signs around, because I don't want to click and drag that, and I'll press enter. Now I can click and drag this, but I'm gonna wait till I get to my next one. So this is equals y minus y bar is this quantity here, and then I want to divide by sx, and then again dollar signs around the sx because I want to click and drag and I don't want to move this standard deviation value. So if you have more than one click and drag, you can highlight those and then click and drag by grabbing that corner to the end there. Okay, so now our next step is to multiply these two quantities that we have. So we have this column and this column. They are represented by these things in parentheses, and then I would need to multiply them. So I'll say just product here instead of rewriting that whole thing. And I want to multiply this value, the x minus x bar divided by sx, times this value, the y minus y bar divided by sy. And so these are the numbers that I'm going to add up. So I'll click and drag that. Okay, so those are the values that I want to add up. This big sigma sign here says sum, so I want to add them all up. Maybe I'll put it here in this column. So the sum, to actually find the sum, I would say sum, and then I want to add up all these values here. So this time I'm clicking and dragging instead of clicking and then shift click. Doesn't matter, both of those would work out. So this is my numerator. And now the correlation coefficient is going to be this number divided by n minus 1. So remember n is 77. So I'll say equals this number divided by n minus 1, which is 76. This is my correlation coefficient. Okay, so that's how you do this formula using Excel. You find these values a lot quicker by clicking and dragging a bunch of things. So there is a shortcut to find the correlation coefficient, and that shortcut is going to be an equal sign, C-O-R-R-E-L, that's Correl, and then your array 1, array 2. So this is the command. Let's actually, I put a quote here so that you can actually see the command, but I'm going to type the command right here. So equals Correl, that's correlation, open parentheses. Now I need my first array to be my x values. So here's my x list all the way down to the end. And then I'll say comma, and then I need my y values, and here's my y list. I want to take that all the way to the end, close parentheses, and when I press enter I should get negative 0.40147, and here it goes, negative 0.40147, exactly the same as my previous correlation coefficient. So doing that is a lot quicker because it's just one command instead of making this list of tables. Alright, so I hope that helps.